The restaurant was small and quiet, tucked between a bookstore and a closed flower shop on a sleepy street in Columbus, Ohio. Soft music hummed in the background, barely loud enough to fill the spaces between thoughts. Emily sat straight in her chair, hands folded tightly in her lap, as if holding herself together required constant effort. She had borrowed the dress from a coworker and spent nearly an hour convincing herself she looked normal enough to belong there. This blind date had already taken more courage than most people would ever notice. Across the table sat Daniel, a man in his late 30s with tired eyes and a gentle posture. He wore a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled slightly, like someone used to practicality over style. He had arrived early, nervously checking his phone before standing quickly when Emily walked in. They exchanged polite smiles, the kind that carried hope and fear at the same time. Both had been set up by mutual friends who believed, perhaps stubbornly, that broken people still deserved something good. Emily's life had taught her to expect disappointment. Growing up poor in rural Kentucky, she learned early how quickly kindness could disappear when money ran out. Her childhood was shaped by evictions, second-hand clothes, and a mother who worked herself into exhaustion only to still come up short. Later, relationships followed the same pattern, men who promised warmth but left the moment things got heavy. Each goodbye etched another invisible scar, convincing her that happiness was something meant for other people, not her. Daniel understood loss in a different way. 5 years earlier, his wife had died suddenly from an undiagnosed heart condition, leaving him alone with a 4-year-old son. Grief had changed him permanently. He became careful, quiet, and deeply aware of how fragile joy could be. His life revolved around school drop-offs, packed lunches, and bedtime stories. Dating felt almost wrong, like a betrayal of the life he once had. But loneliness has a way of growing louder when ignored. Their conversation began cautiously, drifting through safe topics like work, traffic, and favorite movies. Emily worked 2 jobs, one at a grocery store, another cleaning offices at night. Daniel was an accountant who left work early every day to be home with his son. They laughed politely at small jokes, but both sensed something heavier hovering beneath the surface. Emily kept glancing at her water glass, tracing the rim with her finger, rehearsing a question she had carried for years. The silence stretched for just a moment too long, and before Emily could stop herself, the words escaped. "Do you think," she said softly, eyes still fixed on the table, "that some people just don't deserve happiness?" Daniel looked up, surprised by the sudden shift. She swallowed hard, then added, almost whispering, "I mean, do you think someone like me still deserves it?" The restaurant noise faded as if the world had decided to give them privacy. Daniel didn't answer right away. He studied her face, noticing the way she braced herself, as if expecting rejection on impact. He recognized that posture. He had worn it himself after his wife's death, when friends talked about moving on and starting over. "Why would you think you don't?" he finally asked, his voice calm but sincere. Emily let out a shaky breath, the dam breaking slowly, carefully. She told him about her past, about being told she was too much trouble, about partners who disappeared when bills piled up, about nights she cried quietly because hope felt embarrassing. She explained how poverty didn't just empty your wallet, it hollowed your confidence. "I'm tired," she admitted. "Tired of believing, tired of trying. I came tonight just to prove to myself I could." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away this time. Daniel listened without interrupting, his hands folded on the table. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "I used to think happiness was something you earned by doing everything right," he said. "Then my wife died, and I realized it can vanish even when you do nothing wrong." He spoke of grief, of raising a child alone, of feeling undeserving of joy because surviving felt like a betrayal. "But my son," he added quietly, "he reminds me every day that love doesn't ask permission." Emily felt something shift inside her. No one had ever responded to her pain without trying to fix it or minimize it. Daniel wasn't rescuing her, he was standing beside her. The idea felt unfamiliar and strangely comforting. She asked about his son, and his face softened instantly as he described Lego towers, bedtime questions, and tiny hands gripping his finger. For the first time that evening, Emily smiled without forcing it. As dessert arrived untouched, the awkwardness dissolved into something gentle and real. They talked about small dreams, Emily wanting to go back to school someday, Daniel hoping to take his son to the ocean. There were no grand promises, no dramatic declarations. Just two people acknowledging their wounds without letting them speak the final word. Emily realized she wasn't being judged or measured. She was simply being seen. When the check came, Daniel offered to pay, and Emily hesitated before accepting. It wasn't about the money, it was about allowing someone to care without strings attached. Outside, the night air was cool and calm. They stood under the soft glow of a street lamp, unsure how to end something that felt unfinished in the best way. Daniel asked if he could see her again, carefully, respectfully. Emily surprised herself by saying yes without fear. Driving home, Emily replayed the evening in her mind. Nothing magical had happened, yet everything felt different. For the first time in years, the question she had asked didn't echo back as shame. It returned as possibility. She didn't know where things with Daniel would lead, but she knew something important had changed. Maybe happiness wasn't a reward for perfection. Maybe it was a choice to believe you were worthy of it, even with scars. Daniel tucked his son into bed that night, listening to his steady breathing before turning off the light. He felt lighter, not because his past had disappeared, but because it no longer felt like a closed door. Somewhere in the city, a woman who thought she didn't deserve happiness was learning to hope again. And for the first time since loss had reshaped his world, Daniel allowed himself to believe that love, in its quiet and imperfect form, could still find its way back.